In this video, I'm going to show you how I added game-changing haptics to my sim racing rig using a DIY butt kicker system. Recently, I started researching haptics and how to make my sim racing rig feel alive, and obviously I found butt kicker. But very quickly after finding butt kicker, I found that there are DIY solutions which are just as effective as butt kicker, if not even more effective, and like way cheaper. For example, one butt kicker, the entry-level one, is $280, whilst the setup that I'm going to show you, which by the way is a very popular DIY setup, only costed me about 200 euros for two transducers, not just one. So I would like to share this with you, and now you can set this up. If I did it, everyone can do it, as they say. I'm going, just so you know, for a two transducer setup. So one transducer is going to be at the back of the rig underneath my seat. The other one is going to be at the front of the rig underneath my pedal plate. So the first part of this video is going to be about what you need, links in the descriptions, and how to set it up on the hardware side. So how to wire everything, how to connect the amplifier to the bass shakers, and so on. The second part of this video is going to be about how we test the equipment and how we set it up using SimHub. So on the software side, if you're here looking only for specific information, make sure you check the chapter markers. And last but not least, if you find this video useful, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any questions, just make sure you type them out in the comments. If you have any suggestions or any tips, I'm still kind of new to this myself, just let me know in the comments. And without further ado, let's get into it. And alright everybody, these are all the components that I'm going to be using to set up my rig, which is a GT1 Evo from SimLab, with the two bass shakers. One of them will be mounted underneath my pedal tray, and the other one will be mounted underneath my seat using a VESA mount. I will explain a little bit more about that in a moment. So these are the bass shakers that I'm using. I'm using two Dayton Audio BTS1 bass shakers, 50 watts of power each. They will be powered by this Nobsound mini amplifier plus sound card, so you do not need an external sound card if you use this amplifier. It's got two channels, as you can see from the top, one channel and two channels, and I will use 2.5 millimeter speaker wire to connect these two channels that can draw 50 watts of power each to the two bass shakers. It comes with this power supply and this USB cable, which you will use to connect it to your PC. Then I've got some M4 x 200 millimeter bolts and nuts, which are needed to mount the bass shakers. Velcro tape, which I will use to mount the Nobsound Mini onto the frame of my sim racing rig. Some wire guides for cable management. This 400 by 200 VESA mount. So the idea is to mount one of the bass shakers in the middle of the VESA mount. By the way, the bass shakers, they use a 100 by 100 layout with the bolts. So it fits perfectly here in the middle. And the idea is to use these leftover bolts and connectors from my GT1 Evo to mount this plate with the bass shaker in the center of it to these two profiles. So this profile here and this profile here, I will mount it underneath like that. That way, the bass shaker will sit underneath my sit in the center. The reason why I'm doing this is because I do not want to drill holes into my seat. And finally, I will use some felt tape to line the parts of this mount which will touch metal. That way I can avoid any rattling noises. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And yeah, you can find every single part linked in the description. So without further ado, let's get building. All right, so for step number one, I have attached the bass shaker to the VESA plate, and lined it up on the sides with felt tape. And now what I'm going to do before I mount it to the rig, I am going to wire it up so that later on I can easily connect it to the Nobsound amplifier. So in order to wire it up, what you do is you take your wire and strip it. As you can see, I've already stripped both of these wires. And then here, you want to lift, stick the wire in, and then let it go. So red to red and black to black. And there we go. I'm now going to proceed to mount this bass shaker underneath my seat. All right, so the rear bass shaker is mounted. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. I just attached it to the aluminum profile on each side. Should be all right like this. Now let's move on to the front bass shaker. And that is the front bass shaker mounted as well, right underneath the pedal plate. As you can see, I will try to show you. It just sits right there. And I attached the wires. And now I'm just gonna be doing a little bit of cable management at the front and at the back. And then I will show you how to connect it to the Nobsound amplifier. So as you can see now, I guided the speaker wire from the bass shaker on the pedal plate all the way along the frame of the rig, all the way here to the Nobsound amplifier, which I have attached to the rig using Velcro. So I differentiated the wires, making sure that I kind of recognize which one comes from where. So this one comes from the front, and then this one on the left comes all the way from the bass shaker at the back. So with the cable management ready, as you can see, I have quite a bit of excess wire, which I took into account for a little bit of error, and also so that the wires aren't super tight when I fix them. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to cut the wire, I'm going to strip it, and then I'm gonna connect it here. So I will be back when I'm about to connect it so that I can show you exactly how you can connect these speaker wires to the to the channels on the Nobsound amplifier. And alright, so as you can see, I stripped both sets of wires. I did that using a box cutter, and now it's pretty straightforward. You unscrew these, I'm not sure what they're called. You insert, obviously it needs to be red going to red and black going to black. Same thing here. Make sure you get the colors right. And then there is a hole, and essentially you want to insert the copper wire inside the hole. And then once that's done, you screw the cap back on nice and tight. I will do this and then I will show you the end result of how it should look like. So an important thing to remember during this step is that you need to connect the bass shaker at the front of your rig, which in my case is the one underneath my pedal plate, to the channel on the left, which is this one. And you're going to need to connect the bass shaker that's on the rear of your rig, in my case the one underneath my seat, to the right channel. And you need to do this to make sure that SimHub sends the vibrations to the right area of your rig. If you invert this, vibrations that are meant to go to your butt go to your feet and vice versa. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And yeah, so as soon as you're done with that, it'll look something like this. It's nice and tight. I screwed it in pretty much as I could. And I also connected the Nobsound to this USB hub, which is connected to my PC, and I also connected it to the power using the power brick that comes with it, and we have a green light, as you can see, and that's it. The build is done on the hardware side. Now let's jump into SimHub to see if everything works and how to set it up on the software side. Alright, so once you've got your hardware set up, let's test it and tune it. The first thing you're going to want to do, head online and look for simhub-.com. This is SimHub's homepage. Click on download SimHub now, download it, run the setup file, and once you have it installed, make sure that you run it as an administrator. Once you've done that, SimHub will open. This is what it will look like. The first thing that I did is I selected the game or the simulator that I'm going to be using with SimHub. So you scroll down. In my case, it's iRacing. So I found iRacing. Just click on it, and then you will see up here that it will be selected. The second thing that we want to do is go to the menu on the left and click on SHAKEIT Base Shakers. This is where you're going to control the channels and the effects that you're going to be using with your base shakers, and which will go into your simulator. First thing that I would advise doing is creating a profile. So you can create different profiles within this manager so that you can easily switch, for example, between games or between different types of profiles. Maybe you want a profile that's more for immersion with effects that will enhance immersion, or maybe you want a profile with effects that will enhance performance. Let's set up a profile. So to do this, go to Profiles Manager. I've already done mine, but so if you haven't done this yet, just click on New Profile. Profile name, just name it whatever you want. Game, pick your simulator, and then press OK. Once you've done that, you will see up here that you've got your profile loaded. It will show the logo of the platform that you chose. Then the next thing that we want to do is test the base shakers. In order to test them, we have to access the sound output tab, which is up here next to effects profile. If you're using the Nobsound Mini, your sound output device is going to be called the speakers USB 2.0 device. So it's the one here all the way at the bottom. Enable that by clicking on this switch, and now you will see that here it says connected, 2 channels available. So that already sounds pretty good because we have 2 channels, remember, front and back. Now, in order to test whether the setup hardware-wise is all wired up correctly, let's open up the speakers USB 2.0 device tab, head down over to custom channel map, up to 8 channels, because we're going to be using a custom channel map for this setup. So channel 1 is the front and channel 2 is the rear. I have renamed them, as you can see. I will show you here with channel 3. You can just literally, this is text editable, so you can just rename it whatever you want. For the sake of ease, I have renamed channels 1 and 2 to front and rear. Now I will test the front. Just click on test now. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's vibrating, so that's all good. And then rear. Yeah, that works. I'm sure you heard that one. It's quite loud, actually, at 100%. So yeah, they both work. Perfect. Step number 3, we are going to turn on the channels that we want per effect. Don't worry too much about the effects yet. I will explain why I picked the ones that I picked and what they do in a moment. But first, I'm just going to set up the channels that I want for each one of the effects that I'm going to use. To give you an example of how this works, it's pretty straightforward. So say you want to use ABS active. It's the first effect here at the top. So when ABS active is activated, you can basically decide which channel you want it to feed vibrations to. In this case, well, you feel ABS through your feet. You don't really feel through your butt. So I activated the front channel for ABS active, and I set that to 100%. I turned off the rear channel, and to turn a channel on and off, you just click on that. I turned off the rear because I don't want to feel the activation of ABS on my butt. I want to feel it on my feet. The same exact logic applies to the other effects that I'm about to show you. For example, engine vibration. So actually this was more a preferential thing. I don't really want to feel engine vibration all that much because otherwise it would overwhelm all the other effects. It would all kind of like blur in together. I just want to feel a little bit of engine vibration, you know, when I'm sitting at the pits and the car is standing still, or even when I'm driving, just a little bit of like a feeling under my butt, but not too much. So as you can see, I've turned on the rear channel and I've only allowed it to use up to 20% of the power of the bass shaker. So you can see that here, I set it to 20%, and this can be changed with this slider up or down to whatever you prefer. Gear shift I have on to both channels because normally you would feel the jolting of shifting gears throughout the chassis of the car. So I have the front channel on to 100% for that and rear channel on to 100% for that. Then road impacts I've got on for the front and back also both 100%. Here where you see on this part of the table here where it says front and rear next to the name of the effect, make sure that you turn on the front channel for the front effect and make sure that you turn on the rear channel for the rear effect. So there's no need to have this on and there's no need to have this on either. Because when it goes through the front, again, you want to feel it to your front channel, so to your bass shaker at the front, not the one at the rear. So you want to turn that off. By default, these will be turned on, so you were going to want to turn them off. Same thing with road rumble. Same thing with road vibration. Same thing with TC active, wheels lock, and wheels slip. Now, there is an opportunity to export this channel mapping. So you would click here on export, and it basically, you can save this file, and then it can be imported. So if you want to copy what I did, just go in the description and download my channel maps file. Otherwise, set this up in whichever way you think would work best for you, and then it's going to require definitely some fine-tuning, but this is going to be my starting point. Now, another thing that you will notice when you open this is that you'll have a bunch of channels turned on, like you'll have channel 3 and channel 4 like randomly turned on in random places. I just turned everything off because I'm only using 2 channels and to make it easier on the eye. Now, once you have mapped your channels for the effects that you would like to use, it's time to actually enable these effects so that you can feel them when you're driving in your simulator. In order to do this, you're going to want to go down to Effects Profile. Now, my suggestion when turning on your effects is to tune them one by one. And let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm firing up iRacing because this is going to be much easier done in a test session while you're actually in the car. The idea is to test one effect at a time so that you can tune it to your liking and then move on to the next one. Tune it to your liking, move on to the next one, and so on. By doing it like this, it's much easier to understand what each vibration does, what each effects does, and if you just turn all the effects that you want on at once, it might be really overwhelming and it might be difficult to understand what is doing what. And it's going to be much harder to tune like that, in my opinion. The first thing that we're going to want to do is let's open up SimHub. Let's make sure that the volume on our Nobsound amplifier is tuned all the way up. So I'm gonna do that now. Just turn it all the way to the right. So now it's at 100%. The first effect that I would like to test is engine vibration, because we're just sitting still in the pits, so it'll be a great opportunity to see what that feels like. So let's look for engine vibration. Here it is. Turn that on, and as soon as I turn it on, even just at 10% power, I can feel something. I can feel underneath my seat that, yeah, the engine is rumbling, and it actually feels really, really nice. But I've got it nice and low because, again, I'm 100% sure that turning this up is just going to be super overwhelming while driving. If you open the effect by clicking on this arrow, you can see live effects. As you can see, there is a straight line because right now the engine is on idle. But if I accelerate, as you can see, each time I'm revving up, the engine vibration increases, and I can feel that in my seat. Now, this live effects thing is extremely useful because it will allow you to understand when a specific effect is being triggered. I'm quite happy with 10% on this. I don't want this to be any higher, so we're gonna leave it at that. Now, following the exact same logic, I'm going to set up all the other effects that I've already mapped in my channel map. So another one was gear shift. So let's turn that on. Now, and that feels amazing. Each time I hit the gear shifter, as you can see in live effects, there's an input, and I can feel that throughout my entire rig. I actually lowered the effect frequency for gear shift to 30 Hertz, which made it, so I think by default it was at 40 Hertz or 50 Hertz, and 30 Hertz just feels nicer for the specific purpose of this effect. Again, this is entirely up to you. Another thing that I did for gear shift is that I set it to high priority. What does that mean? So when you set high priority, when you tick that under effects priority, it basically overrides any other effects that are running in that specific moment to make sure that you feel this effect. It's good to set an effect to high priority if, for example, it's an effect which improves your performance, like wheel slip, or maybe an effect that you really enjoy, like gear shift. It just feels amazing when feeling that jolt when you're shifting gears. So I've got that set to 60%. Again, that's my personal preference. Let me show you the road effects. So if you want to feel the road underneath you, 3 interesting effects are road impacts, road rumble, and road vibration. Road impacts provides localized feedback for bumps and other wheels when they impact on the road. Road rumble provides localized rumble for curbs, grass, and other like objects. And road vibration provides localized road vibration based on suspension telemetry. So, to show you an example of this, I'm going to open here road impacts. As you can see at the moment, there are no road impacts, so the live effects are at 0. Now, I'm just gonna put that on the side like this, so that you can see, pay attention to live effects. Now, let's drive out onto the track, and as you can see, the live effects are picking up bumps, they're picking up creases in the road, they're basically picking up like the road texture, which with laser scanned tracks here on iRacing is really great. So here, when I transition from the track, which feels nice and smooth, and right now I'm feeling very little vibration, onto the grass, now my entire rig is shaking. So now that I'm on the curb, I could feel that vibrating through my rig, which is really great. So you can use the live effects graph to understand when an effect is being activated, and therefore to tune it to your liking. So I've already tuned my road impacts and I have it down to 10%. And yeah, I'm quite happy with how that feels. I also already set up my road rumble. So as you can see, I'm running that at 15%. Road rumble is specifically nice for when you're driving over curbs. You can really feel that up and down vibration of driving over a curb, and it's super nice. That's why I have that set up to 15%. Bear in mind, it doesn't seem like a lot, 15%, but at the beginning it was at 100%, and first of all, it was making a ton of noise. And second of all, it was just way too overwhelming, and I really didn't like that. I want this to add to the experience. I don't want it to just overkill and overwhelm the experience. And then I've also got wheels lock set up. So that's really nice. When you lock up, you will feel that throughout your rig. And wheel slip. And wheel slip is extremely useful because when you when the wheels start to slip, the vibration is, you feel a little bit of vibration, but then the more the wheels are slipping, the more vibration you get. And if you can basically understand at which point the wheels are about to slip, you can use the feedback from the vibration to basically understand when you're about to lose the car. And this, I'm 100% sure, will be huge for consistency. So I have this one set up to high priority as well, because I think this one will actually help with performance. And 15% volume, because it was just, again, super overwhelming to have it like any higher than that, for my personal preference at least. So yeah, basically this is how I have my effects set up. And by no means it's not perfect, I'm still tuning it, but right now this feels like a really good start. And if you want to try the same, feel free. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Let me know if you have any advice. I haven't really messed with frequencies very much, so that adds a whole other layer of customization. But yeah, if you do them one by one and you set them up one by one to levels which feel comfortable for you, once you've set them all up and you just feel the entire package of effects together, it's just super immersive and it feels amazing. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So to summarize, we've got engine vibration to 10%, gear shift to 60% volume, 30 Hz, and a high priority. Road impacts to 10%, road rumble to 15%, wheels lock to 50%, wheels slip to 15%. That is with the channel mapping that I showed you earlier, and with the volume on the Nobsound to 100%. This is what I'm gonna run for now. Once that's ready, all you have to do is minimize SimHub, make sure it's running. This is not gonna work if the app is not open, but it will run in tray, which is nice and non-intrusive. And that's it, guys. If you thought that this video was useful for you, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you have any suggestions at all, any comments, any questions, please let me know in the comments. I would love to connect with you guys. And finally, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.